Hello and welcome to my Magicka DK build video for the Morrowind patch. This is for PvP, this is for Cyrodil, Battlegrounds and Dueling. Depending on what you want to do, depends on the enchantments and the weapons that you run. Let's get straight into the stats. So we're running 35k max Magicka. Might seem a bit low, but we are running a lot of points into health. Because we are running 5 light, we are quite squishy and health helps with our survivability. In PvP it's around 25 to 28k. 13k stam, max stam. You will be able to block with this, and CC break. You almost won't run out of max stam unless you are in Battlegrounds in non-CP. It's quite hard to sustain. However, with pots, you will actually be able to sustain quite well. Stam recovery is actually quite high, 700. Our max recovery is 2100. This is completely unbuffed. This will allow you, especially with the Battle Royale passive, to sustain in CP fully. You almost won't run out of Magicka unless you are spamming abilities and you're using them unnecessarily. Our max spell damage unbuffed is 2k. This will be around 2.8k when fully buffed. Spell crit is 42%. Crit is actually quite important this patch because most people I see aren't running that high crit resistance, so our damage on crit will actually be pretty high. Our spell resistance and our physical resistance is quite high, especially because we're running 5 light. We get this from the DK passives, and we also get quite high resistances from the CP tree. We are running the Atronach Munderstone to increase our Magicka recovery, and we are running Witch Mother's Potent Brew for the recovery and the max stats. We are also a vampire. This will be for the undeath passive and the additional recovery. Let's get straight into the skills. So our skills are Flame Lash, Fossilize, Inner Light, Engulfing Flames, Burning Embers and Ferocious Leap. These are quite self-explanatory abilities. We are running Inner Light for the max stats and a spell crit. Spell crit is quite important, like I said before, just because people won't be running that high crit resistance. Fresh Sleep's really good ultimate, especially for survivability and just damage, stunning everyone in an AoE circle as well, and gives you quite a big shield that actually lasts quite long. It actually does really high damage and it doesn't cost that much. Backbar, where you're running Structured Entropy, Igneous Shield, Volatile Armor, Corrugate and Blood, Flames of Oblivion and Shooting Star. Flames of Oblivion also increase our spell crit. This will be to increase our Coagulating Blood heals. If they crit, they heal for a lot. And it affects all the other abilities on the backbar. And our ultimate, which is Shooting Star. Shooting Star, you can run any ultimate you want on this backbar really. Shooting Star I prefer. You could run Devouring Swarm. However, this patch the healing has actually been nerfed quite a lot. Last patch when you had like maybe 2 enemies on you, it will heal you to full and keep you there for the full duration. This patch not so much. If you've got 4 people on you, it'll heal you for a bit. Yeah, it will increase your survivability, but the healing isn't actually that great. Now let's get into the item sets. So we are running 5 Shackle Breaker on the weapons, back bar and front bar. And the weapons we are running the Sharpen trait, and we are running the weapon damage enchantment to increase our spell damage even further. We're running that on the back bar as well. Both sharpened weapons, defending on the back bar, and impen on the shield. Our monster stat is Valkyrie Scorer. This increases our max health as well, and it's actually really high damage ability, especially when we have quite a lot of dots on our bar. It will be proccing almost constantly and it just does a shit ton of damage. We are running 1 heavy on the Shackle Breaker chest. This is our second set, Shackle Breaker, 5-piece. It's one of the new item crafted sets in Morrowind. Only 6 traits to craft it, and it's just an overall really good set, especially for Magicka DKs that need all of the max stats. And the stem recovery is actually quite nice. We are running then 1 medium on the shoulder. We are running 5 light, 1 medium, 1 heavy for the Undaunted passives. We are running sturdy on this as well. We are running 2-piece sun on the body and 3-piece on the jewelry. This is just to increase our overall damage and increase our max health as well. It makes our damage really good. Then we got a light Shackle Breaker gloves, light Shackle Breaker legs, and the light shoes of sun. The best traits for this build would be 4 impen, 4 sturdy, but the monster sets I don't actually have what I want. I say 4 sturdy and 4 impen because you could actually run a shield on the front bar. I'll explain that in a minute. Now the enchantments on the jewellery are Magicka Recovery, Spell Damage and Magicka Recovery. This is just to increase our sustain and damage even further. We do need quite a bit of Magicka Recovery this patch, purely because sustain is quite hard. Now the flex spots you could run in your abilities are Engulfing Flames could be changed for either Talons or Draw Essence, or you could actually use both. You could use Draw Essence and then Burning Embers. This is what I like to run open world. Draw Essence, Burning Embers for that heal that you can apply to a couple enemies and it will heal you for a lot. And then on your backboard, Flames of Oblivion is your flex spot, and I choose to run Mists on this just because it's your get out jail free card, and it's just really good when you're trying to escape loads of enemies. So I'll show you my open world setup. Instead of a Shackle Breaker 2 swords, you will actually be running a Shackle Breaker shield on both bars. This just allows you to block a lot more and take a lot more enemies on. You will then also, instead of having a spell damage on your ring, you will be having a reduced cost of blocking. Just because we don't actually have that much max stamina, the reduced cost of blocking actually helps a lot with sustaining the stam. So this is my open world setup. You could choose to run either Grothgar or Bloodspawn on the monster set depending on your preference. I choose to run Scoria in Battlegrounds and Duels, and open world it will either be Grothgar or Bloodspawn. Bloodspawn just great for the ultimate regen and increased physical resistance and spell resistance, and Grothgar is good if you got like 5 people on you. That comes up, you get like bats or you get a meteor, and you get your AoE from Deep Breath or Talons depending on what you run. It's just really good damage and just increases your survivability quite a lot. So let's get into the champion points. So in the tower we run the 64 points, we are around 56 into Warlord. Because we aren't running that much max stamina and we'll be breakthroughing a lot, if we reduce it, it will just reduce the amount of stamina that we actually consume. 8 points into Sprinter. You can really put these 8 points anywhere, I just choose to put it in reduced cost of sprinting. The thing with this patch is you have to have your champion points to a whole percentage. Say if I had it 20.50 on reduced cost of breakthrough, that point of 35 won't actually matter at all. It only matters for the whole percentage value in the CP tree. 56 in the Arcane is just to increase our Magicka Recovery. 29 is Tumbling. We won't actually be roll dodging that much in this build, however when you do it's just nice to reduce the cost of it. Reduce the cost of block by 21%. This is just really nice because we're actually blocking quite a lot. To reduce the amount of stun that we consume, this is really nice. We're then running 14 to Elfborn to increase our crit strikes, the healing and damage. Because we are actually running about 40% on both bars depending on the abilities you slot, this just increases your overall damage and healing. Now you might be wondering why I haven't got any into Blessed, purely because I don't think you actually need it, and if it actually cost quite a lot of champion points to actually get it up a whole percentage, so it's actually better to put it in some damage. We're then running 25 to Spell Erosion just to increase our spell penetration, especially if we run Sword and Board. We're losing that 2.5k that you would get from a sharpened weapon, so this just compensates for that and just increases your spell penetration if you have Duel Wield on. Elemental Expert to increase the overall damage by 10%. We are then running Master at Arms. This is the new CP. We are running this by 20.15%. And then we are running 23 into Shattering Blows to increase the damage you do to shields. Now there is a lot of Sorks, Nightblade spamming shields, even Magicka Wardens nowadays spamming shields. So this just increases your damage against them purely because you can't actually crit against the shields. So this just increases your damage. Then running 23 into Thaumaturge, because we are running quite a lot of dots. This just increases our overall damage, but you don't really need that many more. 10% is really nice. We're then running 61 into Ironclad. This reduces the direct damage you take from attacks by 21%. This completely knows what most people would put into Master at Arms, so just have 21 on that to increase your survivability. We then have 1000 to spell resistance. We have this just because we're running 5 lights, so our whole resistances aren't that high. This just helps, and you also get increased spell resistance from the DK passives. Only 18 in resistant. You could choose to run more into here, but I just like to have 500 and have it into a different CP. Now the main thing we've been running in the red trees is the light armor focus. Now, like I said before, we're running 5 light, so we want this to increase our physical resistance, because if we don't have this, our physical resistance would be actually really low. We then have 5% into Hardy and Elemental Expert, just to increase our survivability again. You could choose to run some into Thick Skinned, take it out of light armor focus, but I like to have a nice lot of physical resistance. Then running 16 into Expert Defender. Don't really need this in here, there's a lot of people light and heavy attacking this batch, so it's nice to have reduction on that. So that's the CP done. It works really well on non-CP. It's just overall really good. Damage, healing, tankiness, it's all good. Now you might be wondering, would you change anything for Battlegrounds? No, but you can still sustain quite well because you'll have around 1.9k Magicka Recovery in Battlegrounds, so that will actually help. So these are the max stats. So we got 2.8k spell damage. Now the sunset, the spell damage you gain from that doesn't actually show on the character stat sheet, so it will be actually a lot higher than that. It'll be well over 3k. Now the resistances are actually pretty high for having only light armor on, and 1 light and 1 medium, 1 heavy, sorry. And on the back bar they're around 25 to 26k each, so it's like you're in heavy armor on the back bar, and your recovery is super high, 2400. This paired with the battle royale passive, you literally won't run out of Magicka. So I hope you all enjoyed. Please leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and see you in my next video. See ya.